Hey, welcome back to another episode with not your Uncle Rico.
Crunkle Rico.
Yeah, with Dave and John. We got a great guest for you. Another Rhodes grad, big surprise, but also a guy that's doing really, really big things in Dale Hutcherson. He's a lawyer practicing in Memphis right now, specifically in sports and entertainment law, as well as employment and family law as well. So really, really amazing dialogue with a lawyer from Memphis.
And one of the goats of Rhodes football, dude.
Really?
Like one of the hardest working, loyal, best teammates I've ever had in my life. Hands down. Anyone who's watching this and is a Rhodes football player would attest to that. He is the GOAT, dude. He's the best.
Heck yeah.
And also, just bottom line, dude, if you're thinking about going into law, this is the dopest story and kind of in my so far that I've heard in my law. In my life,
phenomenal. Absolutely,
it is
phenomenal.
so sick what he gets to do and who he gets to work with. So we're about to jump into that. Before we do that, this podcast is brought to you by the Faithful Platform, which is a small private company that custom builds engagement rings for their clients at a fraction of the cost of retail stores, and we always beat our competitors' price. So if you know anyone who's in the market for an engagement ring or any kind of diamond jewelry, hit us up. You can hit me up on my Instagram or faithfulplatform.com. You can get free quotes, and I promise you, we'll get you the best price for your engagement ring. So, ready to jump in?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's cruise.
Hey, dude.
Yeah?
Okay, so a couple of new developments in the naming of La Llama. Got a couple names.
Yeah?
From our good friend Chase. Okay, so you ready for these?
Yep, ready.
All right, so what we're going to do, I'm going to list these two names, and then we're just going to evaluate them.
Evaluation.
It's going to be number one, Mac.
Mac.
M-A-C.
Yep.
Kevin. Tell me what you think about those names.
So I think of Mac Miller, rest in peace. Absolute, just a great musician.
Yeah,
Love
I
his
think
music.
that was the inspiration.
He's a chiller. You know what I mean? Like chill
do.
music. I feel like I feel with him what he's singing to me, which I guess is the whole idea of music. So
Yeah,
Mac
but-
sounds cool. Negatives, cons, from my opinion, Mac seems a little bit too cool for maybe.
Well, why do you say that?
I don't know.
Well, no, it seems like there's a history to the llama.
Well, yeah, and the history's cool with the llama, but he's more so of like he comes around the corner and you're like, oh, what's up, Mac? He's less of like a homie and more so like of a, oh, hey, what, like that's, I mean, think about, okay, you're standing in the front yard and a llama comes around the corner. You're like, hey, Mac, does that fit? Does that feel good?
I understand.
Like Mac was such like an icon and like such a cool guy, tatted up, good music, unique, different, which I see some similarities there, but I don't know if I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great name for the llama.
Yeah, and if someone were to be like, oh, that's that show with those two guys and Mac the llama, even just phonetically, does it really sort of, does it roll?
I don't think so. I don't know, but like, again, feedback, please, in the comments on YouTube or, hit us up on Instagram, whatever, give us your feedback.
Yeah, if you want to fight for Mac, fight for Mac.
But
Kevin?
Kev. Now this one, let me take
your
you back.
hometown folks are going to love that.
Oh yeah, Monroe, Josh Loud,
shout out,
PJ Settles, Josh Lucas, Cody Stockton. Oh my gosh, all those dudes, man. We used to call each other Kev, and it was kind of like. So this is the history in this is the inside joke in our circle was Kevin is like, you're making just like bum moves, like okay, here's a perfect example.
Please,
you pour yourself a cup of coffee and then you turn around and you knock the cup of coffee on the edge of the counter and you spill some.
Oh my gosh.
You would look at him and you would say, instead of saying, David, you'd say, good one, Kevin.
Gotcha.
Because Kevin spills coffee.
Gotcha.
That way, now, there's nothing
2 to 3
wrong
days
with
a
any of the
week.
Kevins out there. Please hear me now. But it became a thing.
Yeah.
Which, when I think about like, you're sitting in the front yard, same thing. I want to give you some room here.
No, you're great.
Well.
You're great, please.
You're sitting in the front yard and the llama comes around the corner and is like, oh, what's up, Kevin? And he stubs his toe on the way out because he's a llama. And I feel like llamas are a little bit clumsy or goofy.
I like it. I think that when I hear the word Kevin, obviously I was not in on that inside joke, but I know that and I love the history of it.
Thank you.
I feel like all of my friends, like older brother, like the firstborn, was Kevin. You know what I mean? It was like Kevin, and then maybe Josh, and then Kyle or something like that. And he was always the one that he was like 6 years older.
Yeah,
so it was
a little bit like I can't relate with him.
I can't relate with him.
Yeah.
He seems cool, but like maybe if I was his age,
Sure.
I would think he's spilling coffee on himself 2 to 3 days a week.
Yeah, like
so,
I'm downstairs and I'm getting ready to try and beat my friend in Madden, and like Kevin walks down and his girlfriend comes.
Just got his license. Yeah,
and you're like, whoa, that's a grown girl. That's a big girl. Oh my gosh.
Kevin seems so cool.
Yeah. I like Kevin. I'm not against it. I think if it's between Mac and Kevin, I say Kevin for now.
Yeah.
Personally speaking.
I did that.
So we're going to get on Instagram. We're going to continue to dialogue. We want your feedback.
Yeah, hit us up with names. We legitimately want to, do this with excellence.
This is important. This is going to be over the course of the next 5 podcasts in 5 weeks. And we need your help.
And if you're really, really serious about this with us, more than welcome to like give a little explanation of why that name.
Send in a video.
We'll try to meet you where you're at.
And we'll put it here.
Yeah, okay, that's great.
I mean, whatever you need.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's go into the interview.
That sounds good.
What's up, everyone? Episode 12 of Not Your Uncle Rico. We got Dale Hutcherson on today. Actually, an old friend. We played football together at Rhodes. He was quarterback and receiver with me a little bit. And man, this story, as mentioned before, is going to be incredible. He's got some really, really cool stories to tell. He is an attorney in Memphis, right, or in Tennessee. And he is specifically working in sports and entertainment law, business law and contracts, family law, and employment and civil rights law. And so he's doing a lot of cool things, and you're about to hear some really cool stories. So if you're interested in law and you're tuning in, you're like, hey, what does it look like to be a lawyer? And what does it look like to be a lawyer specifically in the sports and entertainment field? Man, you're in the right place because Dale's got some cool stuff to say. So, dude, Dale, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank y'all so much for having me. And I've been watching y'all show for a while now, since y'all started, and obviously heard everyone's interesting story up to this point. And, I hope I can do half of what y'all have been able to provide to the world.
Heck yeah.
Cool. Always humble, man. Love Dale. So, dude, just fill us in. So from your perspective, give us kind of a rundown. What are your roles and responsibilities? Like, what do you do in your job?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I'm an attorney. I'm a young attorney in the big scheme of things. And I have a lot yet to learn, but in my first 2 years of practice so far, I've been working in everything from sports and entertainment, which that's kind of an umbrella term. It covers everything from trademarks to contracts, contract negotiations. I also do some family law and employment law as well.
Gotcha.
And so I didn't want to, especially as a young attorney starting out, I didn't want to narrow my scope too much. So that's kind of what I do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And so at what point did you decide, right before we jump into these stories, at what point, so you're thinking about, I'm a young man in college, I'm trying to decide what kind of law I want to do. How did you land on sports and entertainment amongst other things? How did you land in these different categories?
Yeah. I think sports has always been something that I've been interested in. I grew up just sort of like y'all. I grew up around all types of sports: football, basketball, baseball, you name it. I probably picked it up and played it at some point. Yeah. And I knew early on as well, chances are I'm not going to be making big bucks on the field. I'm not going to be making big bucks.
Oh, I get that.
For sure. It's one of those. Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a harsh reality, but I think thankfully my parents and family always kept me grounded, and I think the good Lord above kind of kept me grounded and said, you know what, I don't think you have those talents. But through that, through playing, of course, you develop a passion, and you want to stay around it or as close as possible to those type things. And that's what made me want to initially jump into sports entertainment from the outset. And then is in regards to the employment, I kind of fell into it. I didn't expect to really be doing employment law, but here I am. And, I've had some pretty big cases that I think most young attorneys don't get to see this early in their career. And then as far as family law goes, I've been kind of, I guess a secret passion of mine has always been relationships and family life, simply because I was fortunate enough to be raised by great parents and in a great family that is always they set a great example for me, and I would like to be able to provide that honestly as a service to the world.
Yeah. That's big time, dude. So here's what I want to do now is jump into to kind of some of the juicy stuff. I think we're going to get a pretty good idea of what you do on the day-to-day. So playing out practically just by hearing some stories. So maybe by way of you just telling stories and your experiences of how you've been able to serve people, specifically in sports and entertainment, and then in other ways. Man, just give us some stories. Let us into what it's like to a day in your shoes and some of these stories you've had.
Well, sure. So one of the things that I would say, especially for any attorneys or aspiring attorneys looking to go this route, particularly aspiring attorneys, while you're in law school, take advantage of the freedom you have. And I know it feels like you don't have freedom in law school because you're constantly bogged down with reading and different assignments and a whole new way of seeing and perceiving the world.
Yeah.
But those summers, take advantage of them. What I did, I went to University of Memphis. Loved my time at University of Memphis Law School. And I saw Memphis as a place of opportunity. One, because there was never any association with sports and entertainment with that school before I went to law school there. So I, along with a few of my friends that I made, founded the Sports Entertainment Law Society. Basically just try to get awareness and bring in speakers. It's a good way to network with anyone in that industry. Yeah. And we brought in everybody from, the Memphis Grizzlies general counsel at the time, who actually is now the GM. His name's Zach Kleiman. He came and spoke to us. We had Lionel Hollins come and speak to us.
Oh, cool.
Who's the former coach, and he could provide some insight from working with agents in the past. So it's those type things that I always advise young aspiring attorneys to do.
Yeah.
I also, while I was there, went to the University of Oregon Sports Law Institute one summer. Ended up meeting with pretty much any big name you can think of in sports media that's also an attorney and journalist. I was able to learn from them through classes throughout the whole summer. I don't know if you've heard of Michael McCann. He's Sports Illustrated. He's Sports Illustrated's lead writer. He just took a position at Sportico, which I believe is a new affiliate with, I want to say Rolling Stones or Variety, something like that.
Gotcha.
As well as a few others that I'm sure a lot of people that are into reading sports business and sports law topics would recognize.
Yeah.
So I networked there, still keep in contact with a lot of those folks. And then that ultimately led to the following summer, I worked with a sports and entertainment group out in Irvine, California. Okay. And there I worked for Hall of Fame athlete Warren Moon and Andre Reed. And, Andre Reed played for the Bills. Warren is most well known probably for his time with the Oilers. And when you want to talk about an eye-opening experience, when it comes to sports entertainment and the world in which those categories live, it was eye-opening. There's a lot of good folks in the industry. It's a small world for sure. But there's also, you learn to separate the good from the bad. And by that, it's a materialistic industry. And I don't mean that to sound so negative. Materialism is the way of a lot of the world works now, particularly in the United States with social media and advances in, products, technology, that type of thing.
Yeah.
And through that, I think one of my biggest takeaways living and doing those things for high profile athletes was I learned to realize who was going to help you and who has your best interest in mind, particularly as a young, naive, aspiring attorney, and those who will take advantage. And I'm not going to get too deep into detail of that, but I'd say that's a good learning point for anyone interested in the industry. Now, as far as cool stories, when I was out there, I got to be a guest at the ESPYs and went to some parties and VIP parties there. And
that's crazy.
That was really cool. I never expected to do that. And then probably the coolest story I have from, I'll say second coolest story I have from working out there was I got to go with Warren Moon. It was just he and the COO of the company and myself. We went to Columbus for the Hall of Fame induction. And I didn't really know what to expect. I just knew I wanted to go because I'm unapologetically a football guy. I cannot. It's my number one sport as far as what I'm into, and it was. I'm not one to get to fangirl much.
Yeah,
but we go to to the Hall of Fame weekend, and first thing I do is I go meet Warren. We're walking through, go to some kind of a reception room where it's like a lot of the NFL players and their families.
Yeah.
And I look around the room and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I reckon this is Jim Kelly, who played for the Bills back in the day.
Mm-hmm,
I see Dan Marino. I saw Eric Dickerson.
Dirty Dan.
I saw all these. Dirty Dan was probably the one that I don't know why starstruck me the most.
He was in
top five, dude.
Jim
Top
Carrey
five.
Pet Detective, right? Or one of those Ace Ventura movies.
I just kept thinking Laces Out, Dan.
It's
like one of
it's hard to remove Dan Marino from that movie, quite honestly. That's one of the things.
It is. I can't do it. Especially probably, our generation, the way we grew up, that was really one of the more defining I'd say movies that we watched.
That was great. I love it.
But
so who else were you seeing? What other faces were in that room at this point?
Well, at that point, like I said, it was a lot of their families. I think I saw Dion there.
Wow.
And at the Hall of Fame game, it was, I believe the Cardinals were playing. I know the Cardinals were playing. I can't remember. I think it may have been the Vikings on the other side. Can't remember. Mm-hmm. But we walk out of that room, and I'm just thinking we're going to the stadium to sit.
Yeah.
We all of a sudden enter a tunnel and walk out onto the Hall of Fame field, and it's the kickoff game of the NFL season, or the NFL preseason, and I didn't know this was happening. So I walk out, and then I realize, oh my God, we're walking into the stadium on ground level, and I just look around like, oh my God, this is like a dream come true. You're a kid, you think about, and of course I'm not playing in the game, but it was a cool
closest you can get.
Yeah,
secondary option for sure.
Yeah.
And then that weekend, I believe it was like LT was getting initiated or inducted.
Yeah.
And there's several others, but one of them was Jerry Jones. That night after the game, they do a big after party, and or after the gold jacket ceremony, Warren gets me into Jerry Jones after party. And again, one of those moments I walked in and I immediately knew or recognized every face I saw. I felt like the most out of place guy in the world, because I think the least famous person I saw was Dak Prescott. If that tells you anything.
My God.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Crazy, bro.
And obviously that's not to insult Dak, but it's just like he was I think his first year, rookie or second year at the time.
It was a young guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I took him on. I had to take a step back and realize, oh my gosh, I need to really enjoy this, take this in, because who knows if this will ever happen again.
You got to get a beer immediately and start shaking people's hands.
That's exactly what I did.
Oh, good for you. Well, I was going to ask that. Good for you.
Yeah, everything. Jerry footed the tab for every single person in that tent. I didn't realize how big of a deal it was until I got a call from my granddad later saying, hey, did you know Jerry Jones had like a big party? I was like, yeah, I was there, man.
Oh my gosh. That's so dope, man.
It was
that is
pretty
so
cool. And, definitely one of those unexpected. At that party, I ran into everybody from, like I said, Dak to like Warren Buffett. I met Warren Buffett because I was in Warren Moon's suite, and Warren Buffett comes over, talks to us, and then I said Dan Marino was probably the biggest starstruck I've ever had. Yeah. But I turned around and I saw Roger Goodell. I met Roger Goodell face to face and talked to him. And like him or not, right? Like him or not, he was definitely the most. One, he's probably the most polarizing figure in the NFL.
Yep.
Yep. And two, everybody knows that guy. Everybody, whether you hate him or love him, I couldn't help but just be a little awestruck. And I'm not one to get awestruck by or starstruck by celebrities and things like that. But it was one of those moments. I had to take a step back. So there was that.
And we got to remember. Okay, so the whole topic of this is like you're getting these advantages because you busted your butt for probably, I would guess, 8 years of school, had a vision, stuck with it, and now you get these awesome privileges to be able to kick it with Jerry Jones, Warren Buffett, and Roger Goodell, and hanging out with Warren Moon. I mean, like, this is awesome, man. Like, this is like, you're almost selling me on like, man, if I could go back and do it again, wouldn't it have been cool to be like in
apply for the fall.
Sports law? But I don't want to cut you off because I know you have more stuff. You got more juice to come. So I want to.
No, yeah. So I said that was my second coolest story. from that, only because my first coolest is when I took that job, I met my wife at the company. Had no idea, obviously, no intention of meeting my wife, and that was really interesting because she's also worked in sports for ever since she's gotten out of college, and
nice.
that was interesting. And I'd also say, I guess this is a piece of advice that I can at least share for a lot of law students going through the strenuous process of trying to get into a sports law type of job or career.
Yeah. Sure.
It's such. If I had to guess, the applicant pool was thousands for any given sports job, not just the one I applied for. I did not get that job based on my merit. I was an average law school student. I tried hard, but once again, I think I was shorted a little bit in the brain department. And I say that, kind of jokingly. I'm not saying I'm a dumb guy, but I know I'm not gifted in that way necessarily either. But what I applied for that job, got rejected from it. I don't know what it was. I had a gut feeling that's where I want to be. And I actually ended up getting a couple of other offers in the meantime from, kind of lower level sports job. Yeah. But I acted on impulse, found the CEO's email, and sent him an email quoting his own articles that he's written to him and saying, I'm passionate about this. This is what I've wanted to do. This is really my last chance to do it. And basically laying out that I will, do whatever I have to do. And he, within 5 minutes, sent me an email back and just said, Dale, I really appreciate this email. Let me see what I can do.
Nice.
No way, dude. What a power move. Also, by the way, that's just smart,
play.
Dude.
It's a big play.
Like you say you don't have a big brain. That's a big brain move, dude.
Oh yeah.
You go find someone and say, hey, you said this, so here I am, and just go to the top of the ladder, dude. That's smart.
I love that.
And dude, that's so smart. And it worked, obviously.
Yeah. And I think back, it's one of those things. Had I not done that, I'd still be sitting here not married, or you know what I mean. Like, it's a weird roundabout way. And not to take this away from the career aspects of this, but it is. I'd argue that the biggest career choice or career move you make in your life is who you marry, because that's really going to dictate a lot of who you are and how you're able to operate on a day-to-day basis.
That's phenomenal. And just to highlight too, at this point you're already in law school and you have sacrificed a lot. And I think a lot of times as millennials, we get this bad rap at the sense of like, I should get a participation trophy or something like that, right? I sacrificed a little bit. I'm entitled to a lot. And even as you're grinding and putting in these long days of studying and getting your degree, even at this internship, this opportunity, it's like you are still, you're not just sitting back being like, I should have got that job. You know what I mean? But you're still going out and hustling and stuff. And so I love that. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I guess I'll move on from that to fast forward to going from an aspiring sports attorney to now being able to, I think, call myself a sports attorney and an entertainment attorney. Yeah. But I'll say this, through my, I guess, endeavors during law school, helping start the Sports Entertainment Society, and going after those internships, I was able to meet a lot of good people. One of those people I brought in to give a talk at the school is a guy named Wooten, and he's who I work with now. And he has been doing trademark and contract work for a while, and he's kind of a small town guy like myself. But he also has kind of a similar story. He's represented Nelly for years. He was Nelly's like one of his tour business type managers when Nelly was the hottest thing out. And he got to go on tour and do all that stuff with them. It's crazy. And
that's crazy.
Yeah, he did everything from help organize tour schedule to helping with mass distribution of the Pimp Juice products and apple bottom products.
Incredible.
That
Incredible.
is awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing.
So right before we got on here, and I know I would love to continue to move on because there's so much here that I would love to just talk about. We're talking a lot about the glamorous aspects of this job, which is the fruit of your labor. But also want to get into like some of the nitty gritty, like, hey, what's hard about this? Like, what can you expect when you're not in Jerry Jones' tent, getting free beers and hanging out with Goodell?
For sure.
But this is like, what's a grind on a day to day?
Yeah.
But before we do that, just rip off a couple names real quick of the people and artists that you're working with, like just a couple high profile names.
Yeah, the ones I can share.
Yeah,
and this is because they're public record with the trademark office. We represent currently Meek Mill, Mark Cuban, of course Nelly, still Megan Thee Stallion, Lil Uzi Vert, and various other hip hop artists. I'll say that, and we also have a few athletes that we represent in their entrepreneurial and business ventures, and that can be anything from starting a business to just getting a trademarks for them to negotiating business deals. We don't do their employment contracts just because that's kind of an agent's job.
Yeah.
But we deal with all their lucrative opportunities. Another big one that I always love sharing is we work with a company. We represent Rap Snacks on all of their trademark and a lot of their contract work. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Rap Snacks. I think we've talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But Rap Snacks is if you go to most convenience store or a lot of convenience stores.
Uh-oh.
Hold on, I'm sorry.
There you go. You're back.
There we go. It's a lot of the Rap Snacks is on in many convenience stores. It has the hip hop artists on the bags, and we basically do all those deals. There's like Cardi B, we got Lil Boosie, Master P.
Oh wow, throwback.
You know what's funny? Master P was actually the name of my sex educator in elementary school.
Are you serious?
No
I promise.
joke.
His name was Master P. I don't know what the P stands for, but sex educator. I mean, it was very confusing for me at the time.
Yeah, I would imagine. So we'll leave that up to the imagination of the listeners.
That's right. Dude, so just if you're listening, what's so like you in the life of a high profile artist or athlete, you're not optional, you're essential. Like they need you for Jordan sells Jordan shoes. It's like somebody's got to legally make sure that he's not getting, undercut or his trademark's not getting stolen or like his products that he's owning and has rights to. That's a big deal. Like right. I remember back in the day, like Silly Bands or it was something like that. I remember something like that was like some small trendy thing blew up and didn't have the proper trademarks. And so they just got washed up in corporate whitewash and lost all their profit. And so like, dude, if somebody comes to you and says, hey, I have this idea and I'm going to make a lot of money off of it, they absolutely need you. You are crucial. So there's actually a market and a space for people to say like, yeah, Michael Jordan made a bunch of money playing basketball. He made, that's probably a drop in the bucket of the amount of money he made on everything else all the way up to this day, The Last Dance. The dude is literally swimming in cash. And without you guys, he wouldn't have been able to do that effectively. So this is a crucial aspect of somebody's life like that.
Right. I like to think so. And I think you're absolutely right from the business standpoint. It's a good way to not only protect yourself from liability down the line, to make sure that, particularly trademarks. Like you said, a business can go down the drain if they don't make sure to trademark early on in the process. But then later on, like you said as well, enforcing those rights. Because, there's so many knockoffs. Like Meek Mill, for instance. You see a ton of free Meek gear probably, all over the internet.
I'm a Sixers fan, so I see it all over the place. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's the movement about Meek, but a lot of people are knocking it off. They're using his name, image, and likeness when they shouldn't be.
Right.
Part of our job would be to enforce that type of thing.
So walk us through like a typical week, as you're doing all these like glamorous things, these cool things, from the time that you get to the office, in and out, what does a typical week look like? So
for me, it's all over the board. I do get to do those, trademarks, contract work. And of course that's a lot of, the reality is it's a lot of behind the scenes work. Now there are occasions, of course, where you get to go and do the cool stuff, but most of the times it's a lot of research, a lot of, filing and familiarizing myself with the USPTO and statutes and case law as well when I have to fight for certain marks. And then, on top of that, I'm having to manage the family law side of it, which is, I'd say that's probably the most demanding side, because, when you go home at 5, family law issues don't stop. They they continue. People deal with everything from domestic violence to smaller issues that may be dealing with a marital asset or visitation with a child. And I'd say that's it takes up a lot more time than I think most would realize, because like I said, family law is you're always on duty. You got to be expecting those calls. So that's a lot of my week does consist of taking care of those folks and making sure, one, they're doing the right things, because people think with their heart, not their head, when it comes to those matters.
Sure.
And your job is to be their brain. And that's,
I like that.
and it's okay. That's what they pay for.
Right.
And then when it comes to the employment side, of course, that's a lot of civil litigation. You see a lot of, obviously sometimes heinous crimes. I say crimes. For me, it's civil. So heinous civil offenses, where basically we go after something, a monetary award rather than criminal justice, because it's two separate things.
Right.
So a lot of that's litigation, and unfortunately, that's probably the slowest type of law that I practice. But that requires a lot of man hours, a lot of research, that type of thing.
How often are you in court?
Depends on the week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, I was in court this morning. Otherwise, I would not be wearing this suit. I promise.
Right.
I try to wear jeans and Jordans on my regular day.
There you go.
But I'd say it kind of depends. For family law matters, a lot of it can be resolved outside of the courtroom, thankfully. Same with employment. But you start getting into smaller criminal offenses, you're in court pretty often if you're an attorney that practices in those areas. Because I still have to go and do those every once in a while, just because I want to keep those fresh in my mind. But it's not all. Here's an interesting stat for anyone listening about going into practice. I think it's like 98% of cases don't make it to trial. It's a high number. I'm not saying 98, so don't quote me on 98, but I will say it's an extremely high percentage that never even get into a courtroom outside of, initial pleadings. So it's not a lot of trial practice.
Gotcha.
Interesting. So as we're kind of slowly closing in and wrapping up, man, what are just to add on to some of what you're saying, what are the non-glamorous parts of what you do? What are the hard parts for somebody out there? It's like, okay, I'm sold. This sounds like it's amazing. As a little bit of homework, like, man, what makes it really hard?
One of the things, and I guess it kind of depends on which area. I guess we'll stick with the theme of sports entertainment. One of the more difficult things is, I guess, sometimes having to be the bearer of bad news. So if I'm having to research a trademark, or I'm looking at clauses in the contract, I have to be prepared to basically let our client know, this may not work out the way you want it to. This may not work out the way you had it envisioned. But all that's done with the intent of showing them that there's potentially better things on the horizon, and to limit their liability when it comes to certain matters. So if let's say someone that's a high profile celebrity wants a certain trademark, I do the research beforehand to make sure we're not infringing. They may have their mind dead set that, this is the name of the business. This is what I want. And I have to tell them, no, I'm sorry, you're going to have to rebrand, because if you do that, one, you're going to infringe. Two, you're not going to obtain the mark. That type thing. Now, with employment, I'd say the darker sides are the slowness of litigation. It is not a quick moving practice. It takes sometimes years, and I mean 2 to 10 years to get some cases done, and it takes a very meticulous, strong-willed attorney to do that. And I admire a lot of, particularly like the older attorneys that have found their way and still continue to do that, despite having that knowledge. Particularly because we're in an instant gratification type of society these days, and it's tough to I guess strap yourself down and get ready for that long haul.
Yeah, and a very long, painful process probably for the client as well. I mean,
Oh
my
yeah,
gosh.
because you're right. Because you're dealing with someone like, for instance, in the worst case with employment, it's usually some type of severe sexual harassment or sexual assault.
Hmm.
You could have the most heinous case, and you know with all your heart that your client was done wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't have hard evidence to back it up, and they're going after a corporation, let's say, because they didn't enforce their sexual harassment policies, they may never see a dime.
Oh my gosh.
They have to endure those type trials and tribulations for nothing, simply because they didn't think to pull up the camera phone and film it, or they didn't go through the right procedures to report it. So their offender gets off on a technicality. And that's the sad side. That's the sad side of those. Yeah. And then, of course, with family law, you see what I've learned with family law is most people have good intentions, and I stick to this belief. I believe most people are inherently good, and I do think that. But if there's ever an area of law where you see the bad come out of those good people, it's family law. You see people, one, they see it as their most important asset, their child, or potentially their life earnings.
Yeah.
And a lot of it comes down to insecurities, failure to self-evaluate, failure to forgive in certain circumstances. And it's kind of sad because you see a lot of family law clients come in and they don't even necessarily want the divorce. They feel backed into a corner like they have to. They see it as, well, my partner stopped trying, or my partner sees it this way, I see it this way. I just don't see us coming back from it. And what I, honest to God, do with a lot of my clients is, because they'll come in kind of hot-headed right off of a fight, I make sure to tell them, do not pay me a dime right now. I want you to think about this, because don't let a knee-jerk response or reaction cause you to go down a path that you really don't want to go down.
Yeah.
Talking those clients down is sometimes, a tough endeavor, because they think they're dead set, and it's a knee-jerk reaction, and it feels right at that moment. But in reality, 2 days later, when they're sitting alone with their thoughts, they're thinking, no, I wish it didn't go that way.
Right.
And you can always back out of those things, but some things are hard to undo. You can't put the toothpaste back into the tube, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, dude, I'm honestly thankful that there are lawyers out there like you that are saying, like, hey, I'm not greedy for your money. I'm more interested in your family life and things flourishing, and like helping you say, like, hold on a second, I know you're angry. But even statistically, I think the stat is married couples that are very unhappy, if they fight for 5 years, almost all of them end up figuring out how to be happy together.
Right.
And that's not to say that people out there don't have a legitimate, horrible, really hard circumstances where it might be best to split up, stuff like that. But I'm saying, like, you're promoting, like, hey, let's be just wise. Yeah. Let's move with patience. Let's move with wisdom. I think that's big time, dude. So I'm really thankful for that. So as we're wrapping up here, man, knowing everything that you know now and all the experiences that you've had and all the work that you've done, if you were to tell your 22-year-old self something, what advice would you give yourself 5 years ago, or your 22-year-old self, whatever that may be?
Yeah, I thought of a few things, but the main thing that keeps coming back to me, that I want anyone that's exploring this profession, and particularly sports and entertainment profession, really, don't be afraid to leap, because you don't get many opportunities to put yourself out there. Law school is a great time for you to make that decision to say, I know this talent pool is huge. I know I have an extremely low shot of getting into this profession. But think to yourself, is everybody else going to go and take that extra step? Are they going to put themselves out there, be vulnerable, and be willing to realize, one, life is short. You don't get this opportunity ever, in some regards. And two, don't be scared, because the worst that you can be told in a lot of situations is no. And that's not to say, be pushy about it or be over assertive, because that a lot of people do that too much, and it comes off as disingenuous. Yeah. But if you're truly pursuing things, and you know how to speak to people and build relationships the proper way,
Yeah.
I'd say go after it and don't hesitate.
Man, that's good, dude.
That is fantastic.
Well, bro, this has been really awesome, interesting. I've loved kind of getting into your world a little bit, dude. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Are you open to, if somebody wants to contact you or maybe talk to you to pick your brain on your life, or is it okay if I forward their information on to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please do.
Cool.
I'm happy to help however I can. And I got to say, it's pretty cool seeing y'all take the leap to set up a podcast. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I really do love the content, and I think y'all are you're doing the thing where if you're going to put it out there, you're going to put out quality. And y'all got the great setup. You got y'all took the time and spent money on real deal mics. Got the llama. Yeah, I really do think you're onto something. So thank you for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome, dude. All right, brother. Have a good one. Dale Hutcherson, the man. If you want to reach out to him, hit us up on our Instagram or figure out a way to email us at tfppodcast@gmail.com, and we'll connect you with the man. Brother, have a good day, bro. Later.
All right, y'all too. See y'all.
Yeah, man. Roll links. Bye.